I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth and the lies told. Today, I'm joined by Miss Angie Hawkins. She is a inner glow coach, speaker, and the author of Running in Slippers, which is a raw and vulnerable memoir about dropping the social mask and social media facades to connect through vulnerability. She has moved from Chicago to Hawaii on her own. She's jumped out of a helicopter into the ocean, Navy SEAL style, bungee jumped, she skydived, cliff jumped, and ran 16 marathons. In her free time, she loves to write, surf, dance, practice fingernail art, and is a member of the Vibe Tribe, which is an invitation-only virtual intuition community. So I would like to give a huge welcome and huge shout out to Angie for joining us today. Thank you so much for wanting to do the show today.
Hi, Noah. Thank you for having me.
So if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So, I am an author and speaker. My book is called Running in Slippers, and it's a memoir that covers a really rough 5 year period of my life. And it's really vulnerable. And the reason I wrote it that way is because I feel like what we see online is profoundly filtered and edited. And even in real life, when someone asks you how you're doing, we put on our happy face and pretend everything's fine. When the truth is, we all go through a lot of really difficult things in life. So, the entire goal of the book is connection through vulnerability. And I'm also an inner glow coach. So, I help women transform from exhausted people pleaser to radiant and confident, seeking who like getting that internal joy and validation from within instead of chasing for it outside of yourself.
So, before we had started the show, you had mentioned to me about 5 years ago that you had hit a very rough patch in your life and that you attempted suicide. Can you go a little bit
Yes.
more into detail about what made you want to end up wanting to take your life?
So it actually started in my childhood. I grew up in an emotionally disconnected environment. And instead of, as a child, I wasn't able to rationalize that it was emotional neglect and my parents weren't capable of providing that to me. As a child, I translated it into the belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. So, of course, our internal beliefs dictate our behaviors, which dictate the things that we surround ourselves with. So, I basically went through life surrounding myself with, for example, I would work at jobs that didn't respect me because I didn't respect myself. I would seek external validation because I inherently didn't believe that I was worthy without it. I valued other people's opinions more than I valued my opinion of myself. So I just spent a long time self-abandoning myself basically and really not showing myself the love that I deserved because I didn't think I deserved it. And in 2017, my boyfriend broke up with me, and shortly thereafter, my dad passed away. So I was plummeted into this profound grief, and I had also spent a long time running away from my feelings. So this was the first time in my life I felt like I actually really had to face my feelings. And within that, there was a lot of soul searching. And I had realized the way that I had been living my life, like I wasn't happy and fulfilled. So I started thinking about, well, what can I do to be happy? And I was living in Chicago at the time. So I decided to move to Hawaii, which was well intentioned in the sense that I was trying to make my life better and be happy, but I was still searching for something outside of myself. I was reaching for a location to be the thing that made me happier. So I moved to Hawaii, and the reality was it didn't make me happier. And I had a lot of struggles when I moved. So, for example, I was very fortunate because this was in 2018 before remote work was the trendy thing to do. My job let me move and work remote. However, there was a huge management shakeup right before I moved, and there were like a lot of layoffs, and my job was uncertain whether I would have a job or not, or if I would be laid off. So, for a year after I moved, I lived in constant fear of losing my job. I had a really hard time making friends when I first moved here. So I'm thousands of miles away from anyone that I knew, and I was struggling making friends. Another thing that happened was when I moved here, I bought a condo because to me that was like how I was like I wanted to like prove that I was committed to the move and that I was all in. So I bought a condo right away, but then that ended up being super stressful because a month after I closed, a shared building pipe backflowed into my bathroom sink and I wasn't home and my entire condo flooded. So I just had like several things happen right off the bat. And then over the course of several more years, it was just challenge after challenge that I wasn't emotionally prepared for. And then COVID happened, which I probably don't have to explain to anybody why that was stressful. Just the immediate isolation and all the restrictions felt very isolating. And then during COVID, I got involved in a romantic relationship. And then I ended up being betrayed by that person because he had lied to me. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back because, again, like I had this internal belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. Life just kept handing me challenge after challenge. And I just didn't see any hope for the future. And I had a total emotional breakdown because the emotional pain was just all consuming. And I thought the only answer was to not be alive. So at the time, I was taking medication for my anxiety. It's called clonazepam, and it's so strong that normally I would just take a half pill before I went to bed, and a half pill would knock me out for 8 hours straight. And I took an entire bottle. I think there were 32 pills in the bottle. And I was unconscious in my shower for a day and a half. Somehow I managed to text a friend and she took me to the hospital. And I spent another day and a half in the hospital. And when I got out of the hospital, I turned on my phone and I had a bunch of text messages. And one of my friends was particularly concerned because I was out of pocket for 3 days and I was supposed to go to this workshop with her. And she was concerned because I didn't show up and I wasn't responding. So I was like, okay, I need to call her. And I called her and I told her everything that happened. And I ended with, I can't believe I didn't die. And her response was, it's not your time. And the words just were so impactful to me because in that moment, I realized that she was right. And I felt like I had a purpose and I was determined to figure out what it was.
That's such a huge, impactful story. So since then, how has life been since your suicide attempt? Has it been better? Have you still had off days, or how has it been since then?
So once I got out of the hospital and after I had that conversation with a friend, I realized that I did have a purpose. But I was also I needed help and I knew I needed help. Traditional therapy had never worked for me. So I hired a coach and I actually, for the first time in my life, I actually started doing the inner work to work on myself. And through his help, I started changing my behaviors to reflect the self-respect, the self-trust, and like little steps turned into larger steps. And then over time, those actions actually transform to my internal belief into that of that I do deserve to be loved, which is true. And that's not to say I don't have bad mental health days. I still have days where I get depressed or I have days that I have anxiety. The biggest difference is I have the tools to regulate my emotions and deal with that a lot better than I used to.
In your book, you mentioned about dropping social masks and social media facades. How big of a role does social media have on mental health?
Oh, in my opinion, I think a huge role because you see these people on vacation, on these luxury vacations. They have their makeup, the lighting, the filters. It's not everyday life, yet we're comparing our everyday life to what we see. And that disconnect is just so large. Another thing is most people are only posting their happy moments. So when you are having that moment, of anxiety or depression, you feel like something is wrong with you because it's like, why can't I be happy like these people? But they're not happy all the time either. We're just not seeing their darker moments.
A lot of celebrities are like that too, where
Oh, for sure.
they'll show the best parts of their life. Now, some will go on social media and will post videos of them breaking down, but 98% of them, what they do is what you said. They'll show their happiest moments, whether it's on vacation, if they're doing some kind of photo shoot, they could be hanging out with friends. They don't really post a lot about, the depression and the anxiety side of fame. And fame, I think, has a huge factor in mental health as well. But I think they like try to persuade people that says, "Oh, fame doesn't cause it. Fame will bring you happiness and all that." Which to some people it might, but some people it does bring disciplinary actions. It does have consequences with it. It kind of just depends on how well you're able to take it.
Yeah, I would argue, because I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, people who are famous for whatever reason, they probably have worse mental health issues than the average person because they have no privacy, they have a lot of pressure on them, all of the things. But yeah, we don't see that side.
Especially with paparazzi having to follow them everywhere they
Oh,
go. It's
yeah.
like you can't even walk out of a grocery store without being surrounded by cameras. And they try to keep their cool and they try to, show the public that they're not this bad person, but sometimes celebrities snap. And unfortunately, paparazzi does catch that from time to time. And and then all the tabloids will get into involved and be like, this is how this celebrity, how he interacts with people or how he treats people. And then here's this other celebrity that she's really nice when paparazzi approach her. So it's, I think, important. So um going to your thing, you said that you were an inner glow coach. How has that helped you tremendously through this whole journey?
Yeah, so because I was able, like, I basically went from rock bottom and then I worked with a coach and got to a point where I call it shining from the inside because my entire life I was looking for things outside of myself for happiness and fulfillment. But the truth is, like we all have this light within us. And, because and you're born with it, because you see kids, they're running around and screaming, and their clothes don't match or they're dirty. And like they don't care what other people think. But as you go along life, and there's all these systems in society that tell you what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. So we learn to dim that light and that's what causes us this anxiety and depression because we're not shining our light and living in the truth of who we are. So, anyway, through me learning that, I decided that I wanted to help other women do the same thing because there's so many people who are dimming their lights. And the thing is, it's not only beneficial for you, because when you're shining your light, you're radiating confidence and all of these things in your life are up leveling and improving. But not only that, you're inspiring everyone around you to shine your light as well. So it like has this exponential effect. And the larger purpose of it is you're either contributing to raising the vibration of the universe or you're contributing to the fear and anger and all the other stuff that's going on right now. So the whole concept of the coaching is to like be a better person, inspire other people to be a better person, and it raises the vibration of the entire universe.
If you're able to, have you had any from the women that you have coached, can you share some stories about or have some women that have really succeeded in the program and been coaching, and can you share if they've share some of their stories about that?
Yeah, because a lot of times people think the problem is like they want a better job or they want to find a partner. But the issue is they're actually not happy and fulfilled within themselves. So, because it's like when you're looking for the job, you're looking for the partner, you're looking for something outside to fulfill yourself. So, but what they learn is they learn how to feel happy and fulfilled within themselves. But within that, that's how you attract the job. That's how you attract the partner. And you don't have to chase after those things. So it's a whole mindset and behavior change to the way you live your life. Because when you're radiating that confidence and you are the light, you're actually just attracting these things into your light. So it's not about the thing itself, it's about remembering who you are and showing up in the world as that person.
When you were writing your memoir on running in slippers, was it difficult to write or was it very easy?
It was super difficult. I actually resisted writing it for a long time. I had I had the idea to write it because I was disgruntled with social media because it's like people aren't showing real life and we all go through hard things. So why aren't we talking about it? So I had the idea to write it, but because I'm a totally different person now than I was back then. So back then, I'm like, I absolutely cannot allow myself to be seen. That would be too embarrassing, all of the things. So it was just an idea, but the intuitive pull was so strong that I actually kind of started writing some things. Like I would go on a trip and reflect and write about that, or I'd have an experience and I would write about it. But it was just this idea that I didn't even think would come into fruition. But after my attempt and I got out of the hospital and my friend said, it's not your time, that really made me start thinking because she was right. And I was like, I have a purpose, so I need to figure out what it is. And I remember my first session with my coach, he asked me, and keep in mind, this is like a week after I got out of the hospital. And when you almost die, life feels very, very fragile in the aftermath. So, for about 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, my only goal every day was just to make it through the day because the only way I can think to describe it, it's like walking around with no skin because like every little thing was just jarring and even like a bird chirping, I just couldn't handle it. So, and I'm setting this up because I think it was about a week out from my hospital visit. I had my first call with my coach. So I'm on this call. I can only imagine what I looked like to him, but I'm like just hanging on for dear life, just trying to make it through the day. But he asked me, like, if you didn't have to worry about money or anything, what would you be doing with your life? And I told him my idea for this book. And I was like, I have this idea for a really vulnerable memoir because I think we're all hiding behind, our social mask. And I was like, I want it to be really vulnerable and show what real life is. And then I want to go around the world on speaking tours and like create these little like love tribes where it's a safe space for people to be vulnerable and talk about the stuff that really happens in life. And I just went on and on. And after I finished telling him that, he was like, did you notice how lit up you just got about that? And and I didn't notice till he mentioned it, but then I did feel like the total state change. Because again, I went from like barely hanging on to like actually feeling passionate and excited about something. So, because life felt really fragile, I needed a purpose. And I was like, okay, maybe this book is my purpose. So, that's when I committed to writing it. And even when I was writing it, it was terrifying because it is very vulnerable. I talk about a lot of mistakes that I've made because I actually, a lot of people ask me because I don't speak positively of some other people in the book because they contributed to my negative experience. And some people ask me about that, like, well, how was it writing about someone who, like, not in a favorable light? But the truth is, I didn't put myself in a favorable light because I'm writing about all my mistakes and flaws. And I think that's hard to put out there, period, no matter how confident you are. So it was really hard to put that out, knowing that other people would read it. But the truth is, vulnerability works the opposite way that you think it does because all of the embarrassing experiences and things that made me cringe when I was rereading them, those are the things that people have told me, like, oh, that's so relatable, or that happened to me too, which just goes to show that we're all going through these things and just not talking about it.
100%. You made a lot of good points there that I kind of want to put my 2 cents in because it was a lot of stuff too. Talking about when your coach had asked you about, if you didn't have to worry about money, and then you were talking about your memoir and you lit up. I've learned just from experience as well as a journalist. I've seen that people usually like to talk about something that really interests them the most, and that they could easily talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and they would be so happy. And so I've learned to ask questions similar to what they're interested in. So if they like gaming, I would ask like, what's your favorite
Mm.
gaming platform? Do you have a favorite game? Do you have a preferred gaming equipment console thing? I mean, so I would ask questions around that, and then they would light up because it'd be something that they're really interested in. They could really rant about stuff, or if someone likes to read and you ask them questions related to reading, they could really light up. So it's a lot of, I've learned from just in the past and from what I've learned and from classes that um, people are usually more willing to be interviewed if it's on a topic that they really, really enjoy and talk about,
Mm.
because it makes them feel um, it makes them happy that the person's interested in what they're interested in, and that they can actually finally tell them and all that. And then as well as like trying to open up and about people from your past in a negative way. I did a podcast show, one of the first few episodes I did, where I told my whole classmates off. I did a whole hour and a half conversation about just going through my senior high school, and I just told my honest opinion about all my classmates. Some were good, some were not good, some were really bad that I said about them. But the thing that people were kind of worrisome about were, are you afraid of them knowing who you're talking about? And I said, well, for privacy reasons, I bleeped every name out so that people didn't know exactly who it was. But I was still nervous in posting it because I knew someone that could probably listen could really pay attention and tell who I was talking about. So I was nervous about releasing it, but I think it helps you get a lot of anger out. That's kind of the reason why I did it, is because I had so much built up anger from
Mm.
and being able to finally say my opinion and their name out loud and be able to say what I wanted to say. A lot of my anger kind of escaped. And I know there's other methods that you can use, like writing their name on paper and burning it, or ripping it up or something, but
Yeah.
it's different being able to say it out loud and being able to say it. So, some people that ask you that, it could be for you in a way of, well, they've impacted me negatively on my life. So I want to kind of, as a way, tell them about what exactly caused me to be this angry, and it kind of shows that. And it doesn't have to be like you mean no harm to them. It's just being honest about it.
Yeah, and it wasn't to because I changed the names of most people in the book. Actually, anyone didn't speak positively about, I absolutely changed their name. because it wasn't about bad mouthing them. Yeah, it was like, this is my story and this is the role that they played in this story. And ultimately, my opinion is if your behavior is something that you would be embarrassed about that it's written in a book, then you probably shouldn't be behaving that way. So that's ultimately my opinion on it.
Yeah, and for books that, are not bleeped out, you have to really give fake names or else you can get in huge trouble for it. That was another thing I worried about too was what if someone did find out who I was talking about and then they would, try to get like a lawsuit on me and be like, well, you're just talking really bad character out of my name and all this stuff. But it kind of goes into evidence where they could go back and listen to it. And I don't really publicly say their name, so they really would have a hard time deciphering that. But I think it I think it's important that you do speak about people that have affected you in the past. Just make sure that it's not publicly giving their name out. Because honestly, if it's someone that you don't like, um, you don't really want people to go give them all this attention, whether it's good or bad.
Agree. Also, I also have compassion for people too. It's like I'm not perfect, which is why I wrote about my own mistakes. Like they're not perfect. They're on their own journey, but their journey is not my problem. I'm just writing about the part of their journey that intersected with mine.
It was funny when I re posted it too, because I kind of sent them all a message being like, hey, because I had not talked to most of them since graduation. I said, I made an episode about talking about my classmates and I did mention your name, but I didn't say your name publicly on there. I know I had about two or three people add me from that or follow me on there, and they had not followed me prior. They never had any association with me in the past. They only followed me just so they could see if they could figure out who I was talking about. And I
Oh,
thought that was very interesting about, oh, I love that y'all follow me now, now there's a possibility that your name might be mentioned and your whole identity's on the line. I just thought it was funny because it was like I
did
thought
you have anyone that you spoke about, whether positively or negatively, reach out to you and have a conversation about what you said?
surprisingly, I have not had a single person since posting
Interesting.
it reach out and be like, was this directed at me? I've
Oh,
not
because it
had
could be
it.
they don't know it's
Hmm.
them. But you would know if it was you, right? I would think.
Well, here's the
Unless it's
thing.
just too vague.
I don't know. Some of them I got really like specific on. Some people might could easily tell. Um, I'm surprised that they don't really know the order I went in because I actually, I'll say it, I went by like their last name in order.
Mm, so they
So,
might be able to figure it out now if they're
so they
listening
could
to this.
probably figure it out now. But here's the thing is that it kind of would get messed up because I actually forgot to say a person's name on there. So about at the very beginning, I forget to say one person's name. I skipped them completely. So it kind of gets all out of
So
order
maybe
after
they won't
that.
figure that.
So then
Oh,
after
I
that,
see.
so yeah, I was looking back and when I was listening to the episode, I looked and I thought I skipped the person's name and I thought I'm not re-recording that. I'm not fixing it. I'm just sorry. I'm just like, you're not gonna be included. I thought, but I'm surprised I haven't gotten any messages yet about like, was this directed at me or because, but I did get them say, well, did you talk to me in a bad way? And I thought you'd have to listen to find out.
Plus,
Like,
wouldn't they already know? This is so fascinating to me. This would be like an interesting social experiment for anyone. And the reason I asked is because I think it would be cool if you said something negative about someone and they listened and they knew it was them because it
mhm.
was so specific that it's like there's no other way this could be anyone else, and they actually like reflected upon it and like, yeah, like I was kind of an ass, I'm gonna apologize. So I think that would be cool, but it sounds like nobody's done that.
No, well, for people that know me personally, have grown up with me, they understand, or my class was just a joke, really. So they probably don't care. It's like one of my most listened to episodes, so
I'm gonna listen to it now.
I know majority of them have probably heard it. They just haven't reached out to me, and they've not said anything. But I did send like every student out a message saying, "Hey, I made this episode. If you want to listen to it, you can." And I think a lot of them have. But one thing I was worried about was I thought I would get a lot of hate for bleeping their name out because I really wanted that to be one of the first few episodes I made. And I mean, even if it was like the most positive thing, I know some people probably didn't want their name out publicly anyways. And
Yeah, I
so,
believe in respecting people's privacy. I actually, in my book, even people I spoke positively about, I think there were only like two names I did not change at all, but everyone else I did, even if I spoke positively, just to respect their privacy.
right. Yeah, that's 100%. And now with how people are nowadays, you have to be so private with their information. Because even
Yeah,
if you said like the most positive thing about them that you had nothing but respect, they could come at you and be like, "Well, I don't want everyone to know who I am," because then they'll go look them up on social media and everything,
yeah.
and which some of them might like that, like the attention, because they would probably want more followers to begin with. But I'm like you, I respect everyone's privacy, and I even haven't posted it yet, but there's actually, which by the time hopefully this episode comes out, it'll be out. I actually did a teacher one too, and I was the same thing in that one as well.
Interesting.
I didn't, I spoke nicely about some and spoke horribly on others. So
I
it's,
bet you'll get more of a reaction with the teachers in terms of like reaching out to you.
hmm
That would be my guess. Just because the difference in emotional maturity, like they would, but who knows, maybe they're not emotionally mature. Well,
I
I
don't
guess
know.
you're about to find out.
Well, I'm like, did I even mention it? I think I mentioned some names, but I think I did it from like grade wise. So I was like my fifth grade math teacher, and I feel like,
Oh, that's kind of specific though, right?
well, it depends on if they'll remember who I was too.
That's true.
So it'll still be interesting. I might be like, hey, be like, I wrote did like an episode. Oh, I feel like that would be more weird though, messaging my teacher from the past about a podcast episode. Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you give them a heads up or not?
I don't know.
Maybe the positive ones, because they would want to know they had a positive impact on you. Like, I had a Spanish teacher in high school who had a positive impact on me, and I never told her. So to this day, she has no idea. I should actually track her down. Because it's like, wouldn't you want to know if you had a positive impact on someone?
Yeah, I'm just, I know one of my friends, and this would be very interesting. Someone I went to school with actually also has a podcast, and I recently had to move back home. So I'm back to my hometown, and I think she still lives here. It would be very interesting to go on her show and be able to sit down and be like, reflect and sit there and ask her flat out, did you have an idea of who I was talking about? And then we could go in and I'd be like, yeah, that was you. Because there was some times when I was listening to the episode in full, because I listened to that episode, a lot of people don't know how much hard work I put into that one. I made sure every name was bleeped out. I made sure no name was uncensored at all. And I remember sitting there, and there were times when I was listening to it for one last time that I would sit there and be like, "Who was I talking to? Who was I talking about?" And I'd have to get the yearbook out that I went by, and have to be like, "Oh yeah, okay." Because so even though I had remembered everyone, I couldn't really pinpoint who exactly I was talking about.
But were you saying in the beginning the reason you did this in the first place is because it was therapeutic, because you felt like you couldn't? I love that. Because, yeah, sometimes you feel repressed, or I don't know if hopeless is the right word, but I think it's just more like the repression of that you don't feel like you can vocalize something. So I love that you did it in a way that you could vocalize it, yet you're not harming anyone's reputation.
Yeah, I did it solely for therapeutic reasons. And kind of like a reminder for people that are new to the podcast, and this might be your first one. My class really was very much cruel to me. I was bullied severely by them in fifth and sixth grade during middle school times, and um, I that just really didn't hang out with me. I kind of was in my own league. My school was very much the standard Southern school where you would have kids that were sports people. Like you had the jocks that would be in their own little social group. You had the people that had parents were millionaires that would be in their own little pile, and then you'd have people that were didn't really care about school that would really cut up. And I really didn't fit in any of those categories, and no one from those categories would even speak to me either. So throughout all of
Mm,
high school, I and most of my school life, I was pretty much a ghost. I kind of just floated with them and was just not accepted. And then after then, they all kind of just cut ties with me. Especially some people that were in my circle. As soon as we graduated, they kind of just cut ties with me and didn't talk to me again. And so they always wanted me to hear about their problems, but yet when it came to be my turn to actually turn
yeah.
around and be like, well, this is what I'm going through, they didn't want to listen, they didn't care. And so the podcast and that episode was fully just a call out to them. And I even said at the end of the episode that I really don't like any of you guys because y'all, even the people I had talked positively on, I said,
Because they
like,
weren't truly your friends.
right. I said, as a whole class, I have to say that as a group, y'all were not a great class to me. I mean, even the people I've just spoke positively on, y'all didn't really treat me great. The only reason I said something positive was just how my impression of a lot of the times we did talk was. And so I went all out. There were some points when I was listening back to it, I was like, should I post that? But it was also a thing of, well, I don't want to lie because that's kind of defeats the whole
Yeah, I think
purpose
the
of the show.
vulnerability is powerful.
And so, like I remember there was one person that I'm surprised has not reached out to me. I've full on called her out because she was our valedictorian, and I remember she had gone up and made like a speech to the whole class because and she went first before our salutatorian did for some reason. Um and so she went up there and basically did not tell anything positive about the teacher. She went up there and just spoke awful about them. She did not. Basically talked about herself. And this was I graduated right when COVID hit, so I was class of 2020, and so our class had to have their graduation out on a football field, and we couldn't have a full on audience. We could only
Right.
have a limit of three family members and maybe one other person. So it was just groups of four people spread out. And so everyone else would have to watch on Facebook. We streamed our Facebook
Okay.
graduation on our high school page, I think. Well, due to her comments, our Facebook graduation had to get taken down. So while all the other schools in the county, all their high school graduations were able to stay up, our school had to have had ours taken down due to her comments. And I flat out said who it was. I said, and I was honest, I didn't really hold anything back and was flat out honest. So I know a lot of people, if a lot of classmates probably listen to it, they'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But she particularly hasn't reached out to me and been like, I don't like how you talked about me. So,
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they've matured since then. Hopefully that's part of it. I don't know.
well, I don't know, honestly. She wasn't really mature. Even after the fact, she didn't even really apologize on Facebook because she actually went on Facebook a few days after the incident and basically kind of just dug herself a bigger hole. And of course, she had like the whole, like this whole cult of people just around her be like, you know, you're such a perfect human being. And it was basically just feeding her this kind of cocky attitude. It was, I think a lot of the rich folks here were just kind of really bubbling her up and saying that she was basically in the right and everyone else was wrong.
And
So,
that, well, and that's why, because you did yours for therapeutic purposes, and I like how it was for you. It wasn't about to get a reaction from anyone. Like if someone does respond, I find that interesting, but it's not necessary for your healing, right? So I really like how your practice for, being able to speak your voice was just for you.
Yeah, it was all for me, and after I recorded it, I felt so much weight lifted. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I
And
thought I
and
feel
that's some
great now.
and that's like the amazing part, right? Because you had felt repressed for so long. And the worst part about hearing your story is because, high school is or just school in general, it's so driven in systems. And to your point, like that usually results in having cliques of certain types of people.
Yep.
And in general, in society, if you don't fit in a certain clique, you can still do really well in life. Like, for instance, I've never been the kind of person that like fits into a specific clique. But I view that as a good thing because I have friends from a variety of places, or hobbies or whatever, because I can fit in almost everywhere. But if you're that kind of person in a school system, I almost feel like
Hmm.
you're punished. So, like, you had to deal with that for so long, and like now you have the voice to express what you weren't able to express for so long in the school system.
Yeah, and I was very vocal about my mental health struggle as well during that time because that's when my mental health was really bad. I got diagnosed with depression when I was 13. I was young
Yeah.
when I got diagnosed with it, and then I got diagnosed with anxiety at 18. And the whole time I was dealing with it, I never had really one person reach out to me and be like, "Is everything okay?" It wasn't until about a year and a half after graduation, I had posted on my social media this long post about sharing what my social anxiety was like and telling them what it was like about how it's like I almost died essentially because I was so sick with my mental health
Yeah.
and then a lot of classmates reached out to me and was like, "Oh, I had no clue that you were going through that." And I thought, well, if you would have talked to me and listened, maybe you would have
Yeah.
known. It was just a way of like proving my point of, well, if you would have listened to me and would have paid attention to me, you would have known that. But since y'all kind of just didn't pay any attention to me, y'all of course had no clue. So I did get a lot of feedback from them. And then I was even like when I did the episode, put categories in. I put like I think a list of BFFs. I remember I had friends. I had a lot of people that were very much undetermined because I couldn't really tell what our status would have been.
Hmm.
I had a lot of those. I had like a lot of people go into like certain categories, and I thought, I thought there'd be more of a variety, but they've all just gotten clustered up into one category, and I was like, honestly didn't think that there would be this huge of a list in one particular category. I thought it'd be more sporadic and would be spread out, but it wasn't. So I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised myself, the relationship, but um, other people have seemed to like it. I think one reason why it's so popular, it's and most listened to, it's a lot of people like juicy stuff and
Yeah.
it's drama. And so people are like, oh, an hour and a half full of just stuff spitting out. They really eat that up. And like I had a conversation with someone the other day about recently about episode length and you know do people listen to do episodes that are longer get more listens? And I said, well, my most viewed episode is like an hour and a half and it's the most listened to. So, but then I also said it was full of drama as well. So there was
Yeah.
also like tea behind it, and also I was like talking crap about people, and a lot of people love those kind of stuff. Where if they hear someone talk about space for like 20 minutes, they wouldn't really particularly
Yeah.
care about that. So I said, honestly, the longer episodes usually get the most listens because I think they get the impact of like, well, what could he have said for an hour and a half?
Also, like you're right. I think it could be perceived as drama, but there's also vulnerability to it because how many people have the courage to speak up about people who haven't treated them well? Because again,
Oh.
that was the hard thing about my book because it's like, I have to speak up about this. And it does take a certain level. You would think it would be easy, right? Like this person did me wrong, so I want to tell everyone, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's that easy. So I would be curious, and I think I am going to listen to it for like the vulnerability aspect because I think it's cool that you actually spoke up and had that voice.
Yeah, kind of going like a question for you for when you released the memoir, what was the overall reception of it? What have been the reviews for it and did anyone from your past read it and go, wow, I did not know that you were going through that? Did you have anyone reach out to you in particular about the book?
Yes. So, despite being, because again, I didn't shed myself in a positive light all the time either. I had many embarrassing situations, many mistakes. So, I was terrified that people were going to think I was an idiot, blah, blah, blah. I had, not only did I have people that I know reach out and say, hey, that was like super relatable. This has happened to me too. I've had a variety of people that I don't know. Like I had a 60-year-old man reach out to me and say, like, this specific thing in your book, that happened to me too. Or I've had other people that I don't know. I did have a few people reach out and say, like, hey, I knew you during this time and I didn't know you were going through that. But admittedly, I didn't tell them either because I was putting on my happy face. I was putting on my brave face. So I take accountability in it too.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I did have some people reach out and be like, "Hey, I didn't know that you were going through this. I maybe would have done something if I did." So that reception has been really good.
Back to what you said about the man that appreciated that part of your book. One reason why my show is a very much a variety show, it's for the fact that the show has something in it for everybody, because someone out there is going to relate to it. I've had someone like I've re- My episodes really have ranged, and I've had multiple guests range from different backgrounds, from different stories. I've had someone I talked about my experience hunting. I've also talked to an author about how writing saved her life and was that. And I had someone that was in the film industry that talked about secrets that happened behind cameras. And then another person I had grew up in Japan and would visit Japan a lot for work and had like a lifestyle there. And so I included all these people on there because I know someone out there that might have like an interest in film and wants to know some things that go behind the scenes, would be interested in that. I do it mainly for those kinds of people because, and especially for mental health. I know that I can really talk about something with mental health as many times as I can, and someone can say, well, wouldn't you have already just learned everything? And I said, well, you'd think so, but yet then someone else could come on in like a month and tell me something I've never heard of. And I've always learned you can interview about 500 people that are from the same profession, have the same background um in mental health. You'll learn something different or something new from them every time.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You learn something new every time. Like I had someone come on here the other day, and one of her ways of trying to um, get rid of an anxiety attack was that if she could be driving down the road and she would just do like the random list. And it was this, you would look in front of you and you just randomly would say stuff. You would go like tree, sign, blue house. And I'd never done, of all the doctors
Mm.
I've had and psychiatrists, therapists, and other people I've had, that was the first time I ever heard that. And then I told her something that I do, and she was like, "I've never heard that either." And so it was just this way of, and so I really appreciated her for sharing that because maybe there's someone out there that could be like, "Oh my Lord, I actually do that too."
Oh, yeah.
So
Do you want to hear what I do?
yes.
Um, so, and I got this from someone else, but basically, physical reactions, because I don't know about you, but when I have anxiety, it's like there's a physical reaction in my body, like my chest is tight and all of the things. But
Hmm.
physiologically, reactions in your body only last 90 seconds. The reason why they last longer is because the story that we're feeding it in our head. So, like this, whatever we're anxious about keeps feeding it. So the reaction in your body lasts longer. So, and I think this is basically the premise of her exercise. She's focusing on the list, like if you just focus on your bodily sensations, and I like to repeat to myself, I'm safe in my body, I'm safe in my body, and I just focus on how I'm physically feeling, then the story goes away and it does go away in 90 seconds because I'm just focused on the physical sensations and not what's going on in my head.
Yeah, what I do that helped me was a therapist told me this, I think 3 years ago. It was kind of the breakdown method. And what you do is you would come up with just a generalized topic. So you would think, okay, think of five things that are red, and you can name five things that are red. And what you want to try to do is break it down to the point where it takes you forever to think of an answer. So if you said that, say, okay, think of five things that are red that look to be round. And so you have to think of
Um,
five things that are red that look that are round, and then you have to then can break it down and say, okay, name three characters that are red. And so what you do is, and this can be on anything as well. It could be movies, it could be games, it could be car types, it can be kind of places that you want to go. It's just a way for you to get your mind off of the get your mind away from what you're thinking of. It's mostly used for
yeah.
anxiety attacks, and you're trying to get your brain away. Because
I
then,
think the common theme between all three of those things is just taking the focus off your ruminating thoughts. Yeah.
yes, and I've found it because there've been times when I could be having it, and I'm thinking, what's green? Like, you're sitting there for like 5 minutes, and you're trying to think of something that looks green, and I'm like, you're like,
Then I would start getting anxiety about that. Like I can't think of anything.
and then I'd be sitting there like, what character's name is green? Like, I don't, I don't know, but I've found that it's helped. Now, everyone's different when it comes to those kinds of methods. Some people, and I've learned that if you're having like a too bad of a huge anxiety attack, nothing that you can do will change it. Because there have been
Agree.
times where I'm like, it just has to run its course. It has to go through the whole process till it's gone. Nothing you're gonna
Because
say,
my method
nothing's gonna
doesn't
help.
work 100% of the time.
Right. And I'm like, just everyone just let me be. Just let me have a moment because it'll take a few seconds for it to go.
But I think there's also value in that though, because I used to be the kind of person that didn't feel my feelings. So I would look for something outside of myself to numb the feelings. But there's a lot of power in actually just feeling your feelings, even if they're unpleasant. Because in an anxiety attack, I don't know how bad yours have been, but sometimes it feels like you're having a heart attack. So then you get wrapped up in like going down that rabbit hole of thought. But there's a lot of power in feeling your feelings, even if they're unpleasant.
My anxiety attacks are weird. Last summer I had to do summer classes to be able to graduate from college on time. And I remember the first time, because I was on anxiety medicine at this point, but then I remember I had woke up and I think I had a test for a class that was really hard. And I told my mom, I was like, my chest hurts right here. And I said, I don't know what it is. And she said, I think it's your anxiety. And I thought, well, this ain't fun. Because I'd had anxiety attacks in the past, but mine, um, heads up warning for anyone, but mine kind of trigger from like vomit. That's kind of like how my
Oh, yeah, I've
anxiety
had that
attacks
too.
was. And
Okay.
I always told people, I said, I'd much rather take the shortness of breath or like the pain here than
Then
puking,
throwing up.
honestly,
Yeah.
because I hated that feeling. But that's how my anxiety attacks were, which were not fun. I hated those. But then when I had the pain in my chest, I was like, oh, I can't do this. But yeah, my anxiety attacks, because that's usually the common factor of what people have from anxiety attacks. They breathe fast, their chest really starts to hurt, they feel like the room's spinning around.
Yes.
Mine's more of a stomach problem than anything else, and I don't really like it. It's not fun. I hate it that my anxiety attacks come from that. But
Yeah, I had a stressful job once, and that's how my anxiety manifested. I would like wake up in the morning and just throw up because the thought of going to work just made me nauseous. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's
So
how that's how
yeah,
I
that's
was.
definitely a
Exactly
symptom.
how it was. Mine triggered from school, from my senior year of school.
Yeah.
That's how mine triggered. And we didn't think it was anxiety because I had always learned anxiety came from can't breathe and pain right here. No one ever told me that nausea and then ended up vomiting was a trigger factor for anxiety because I had not heard that being like a side effect or like a way of telling. So for like a month or two, we just thought I was sick with something. We just thought it was something.
Mm.
So, because we didn't really know. And even when we went to the doctor, I think our doctor was kind of baffled about it too. And then he had done some further research about it and had come up to the conclusion of, I think you got anxiety because when I looked, what you're exhibiting has been what I've read about. So for about a month and a half or 2 months, we just kind of thought I was just sick with something. We had no clue that it was anxiety related.
And then it went away when the school, because it was just summer school, right?
Well, this was
When,
like when I was in high school.
oh, so it was an ongoing thing that you definitely can't escape that.
Yeah, my anxiety had really huge repercussions from it. It affected me so bad. Like anywhere I would go, even if it was like 5 minutes down the road to the gas station, if it was to Walmart, somewhere that I had been since I was 5 years old. Going to see friends that I'd known for 10 years and just going next door to my great grandmother's house. I mean, everything made me a nervous wreck.
Well, I think I'm starting to see some correlations because you said you were bullied in high school, right?
Yes.
So the job that I had, where I would get sick in the mornings, I was being bullied by my manager. And then there was a period after I left that job that I had PTSD and I was like always on edge. And so I think there's like a relation to bullying and all of that. Because like what you're describing is exactly what I went through in that job.
Yeah, for me, I think the anxiety came from because then we were trying to pinpoint of what was the anxiety. Me and my mom sat down and were like, "What's if it is anxiety? What's causing it?" And I said, "Well, it has to be school related because I can't think of anything else." And I remember there was a class that we had that was from a history teacher. He was very tough and made the class like a college level course, even though
Mm.
it was a senior high school class. And I think that's where I got it from. Because I always hated going to his class. He always treated us really badly. And he was just all around a jerk to everyone. And I really think that my anxiety stemmed from that. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but that's about the only thing that I can really sit down and be like, okay, this is what's causing it. Because my doctor did an experiment. He said, okay, if it is school related, I want you to stay out of school this whole week.
Oh, nice.
He was like, just don't go to class, just stay out of school. And then if that's what it is, then we can try to think about what to do next. And surely enough, that whole week, well, I still did have the anxiety because it was a thing for my body not to be used to just staying out because I just wanted to.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would wake up and be like, no, you're not going to school today. You're not going to school today. Like there would be times where I would get nervous and I'd be like, you're not going to school today. We're not leaving. I'd have to tell myself that.
See, that's what I mean. Like your body like remembers. So that's why sometimes there's residual effects.
Yeah. And then I really had severe repercussions from that. Like it really affected me. It took forever to finally get it calm. I mean, everywhere I went really was, and I had such bad remorse on him because he was the main root and cause for it. And I remember right before I went to Auburn, I had to get my high school transcript to send there to be accepted. And I remember I walked in, this was like 2 years after I graduated. I had walked in, I said, hey, I was coming by to get a copy or have you send my transcript to Auburn for them to look at. And I remember he walked in and I thought,
Mm.
oh, do I be nice and just not say anything? Because I wanted to really say something to him, but I thought,
What would you have said though?
I don't know. That would have been the thing. I think it would have been smart if I think it was smart that I didn't say anything because I think I would have probably. it would not have been nice. I was
Probably.
like,
But what was exactly the anxiety though? Like he was hard on all of you, but were you taking it personally or like what was it that made you so anxious in his class?
I think just the difficulty of it. I don't know. It it's such a strange thing,
Mm.
and
Do
it's
you
so.
think were you like a straight A student?
I was like, well, I was, but then when I got to middle school, it kind of I lost the all A's, and then well, I think what had happened was when I was a junior, I actually, for the first time in like years at that point, had straight A's all the time. And then when I came back for senior year, I had all A's, I think my first semester, if not a B. So, and then when I came to him, his tests were very hard. And I just remember studying, and nothing I studied was on the test. And so his tests were very
Mm.
much difficulty. But I didn't really tell anyone like what the cause of it was because most people say, "Oh, well, you get anxiety from, stuff that's very traumatic, like a car accident or maybe some kind of incident where you've been sexually assaulted or something very much like that." I was very embarrassed to say, "Oh yeah, my history teacher caused me to have anxiety." I mean, I for like months and a year didn't say during that whole time while I was out.
But the reason why he gave you anxiety is probably related to something that's more extreme. And that's why I was asking you a question, because I was thinking maybe you got straight A's. So because you were struggling to fit into all the cliques, maybe your identity at school was to be the straight A student and he was affecting that identity. So I was actually trying to find the deeper reason because him being him was not the reason. I feel like it somehow reminded you of a more traumatic situation, and that's why it gave you anxiety. Based on that, can you think of anything?
I don't know because I didn't really paid any attention to clicks during that time, so I didn't
Oh,
want
so
to
that was out
be
of, and
so.
I don't think that is a good theory now that you described the grade situation.
It's
Have you ever was that the first time you felt anxiety in your life? Was there a time in your childhood where you ever felt anxious?
mm-mm. That was actually the first time I had like anxiety, like full on would have anxiety attacks. Like a lot of people don't know because I kept this secret. I was really struggling during that time. I lost 20 pounds just from
Mm-hmm.
the vomiting. I'm a huge weight loss when I'm sick. If I'm sick for like 3 days, I lose 10 pounds. It's a problem. So from doing that off and on for like a whole month and a half, I had lost 20 pounds during that time. I was, it was so hard because people would ask questions. And I know people probably ask questions at school like, why is he not here? He's always here. What's going on? And so I didn't really know exactly what to tell them. I don't know if I should say, like, do I say, yeah, I've been sick off and on for like a month, whatnot, and then we still didn't really know about the anxiety until really after school had ended because we got out of school early because of COVID. They shut down everything,
Mm.
and so about middle of March, school had technically been canceled, and it was weird. We still to this day really cannot really pinpoint exactly what it was that caused it. The only thing that I can think of was how he just managed the class. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know if it was something from past.
Did you have like a strict parent or something?
Not really. I mean, my mom always wanted me to be good in class, but by that point, she said, I don't care as long as you get a passing grade. I don't care.
But that, but did she say that before the anxiety started or after?
Yeah, before.
Interesting.
So she was like, as long as you pass the class and able to go on to the next grade, I don't care.
But at some point, she put pressure on you to get good grades, right?
Younger, but elementary school was so easy.
Okay, but I think it could be related though, because okay, elementary school was easy for you,
Hmm.
and she put pressure on you to get good grades, but it was not a problem because it was easy. So there's no
Right.
anxiety. But
Right.
then as you get older, because in our formative years, that's what forms our beliefs in our mind. So your belief was, I have to do good in school. And for a while, it's fine because school is super easy, not a problem. But then you get to his class, regardless of what your mom is saying, you still have that belief. It's like in your subconscious, so you're not even aware that you're thinking it. So your subconscious is telling you you have to get good grades, and now here's
Yeah.
this person who's making it very difficult for you to get good grades where you've always had it really easy. So I think
Hmm.
there's something there.
It's funny you mention that because I remember in sixth grade we had, or was it seventh grade? I think it was seventh grade. I think I had gotten a C for the very first time on a report card. And I remember I literally had a breakdown. I know
There you
that's
go.
so
It's
traumatic.
because your belief was I have to get good grades.
I always made like A's or A's and B's. It was the first time in my whole life I made a C. I literally had a broke down moment. Now I look back at it and I'm like, you passed. Because once I got to college, if I made like a 50 on a test and I still passed the class, I was like, oh.
And you don't get anxiety anymore, or you didn't in college?
College, it went away before I got the anxiety. It was really weird when after the whole spill had happened, I really spent 6 months trying to really focus on my mental health during that time. I was one of the people that was happy COVID had happened because I think if it didn't, I don't honestly know if I would have made it through high school. I don't know what would have happened. So I was kind of
Mm,
grateful COVID happened
that makes sense.
at that time. And so then when August rolled around, I was nervous about college now, but it was just this new thing. I was just nervous about everything new everywhere I go. It wasn't even school related. It was just the fact that I'd be going to someplace new. It
Mm,
so until I went to a psychiatrist and she got me on this anxiety medicine, that medicine was a godsend because I was able to do everything. Like I went to Auburn, had no nerves first week in class, had no nerves going to class and taking tests. I didn't have any nervousness about moving in or nothing. It was just like that medicine was just a godsend for me. All my anxiety really went away. I've not really had a full-blown anxiety attack since taking that medicine. That's been like, I think going on 5 years, or not 5 years, 3 years now. Sure, I've had moments of anxiety because it's like what you said earlier. You have good days and bad days.
yeah.
I still
Like your
have those
life is
good
never
days.
perfect all of the time.
Exactly. So I mean, the medicine's not going to be 100% a cure, but has it helped tremendously? Yeah, it has helped. Now, the depression usually now is a big problem now. Anxiety is not really a huge issue. Since I've really graduated from college, I don't have to do schoolwork anymore. My anxiety's been really good now.
See, so that is the connection. Like you don't have the pressure of the grades.
Yeah,
And that's how
college had that.
powerful beliefs are. Because
Mhm.
even though you were like, oh, my mom doesn't care, it was so ingrained in you at a young age. Like that was your belief, and anything that challenged that belief made you anxious.
Yeah, it kind of, because I always wanted to do well, and I never wanted to do horribly on
And there's
tests.
nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. But I had to go in the mindset of, okay, you can't make 100 on every test. Just because you make a zero on a test doesn't mean that you're dumb or anything. Because there had to be times where I made zeros on tests and it didn't really affect me at all. But yeah, there could be times when I would do very well on a test and thought, well, I could have done better. It just really depended on just the tests and how the overall, I guess, after how much it would have affected. Because there were times when I think for a history class I had to take, I think I would have made a zero on the test and would have passed with a B. Didn't really care about that test. I just clicked through in about 5 minutes and was like, here you go. I was like, okay, I'm done. I didn't even care to like read the question because I thought, well, I can make any grade, even if it's a zero, and still pass the class with a B. So I was like, I was not stressful about that. But then when it comes to tests, like last summer I had like a D in a class. I was so like every test was just like a death sentence for me. It was just like walking a little thin line of you're on this line and you can either fall one way. You can fall and do good this way or do bad this way. And so I was more nervous academically last summer because the classes were so hard. I had to fit very hard classes within a very short amount of time. And so it was a whole bunch of work thrown at me. I don't know how I
And
did
see,
it.
that's what I mean. And that was a threat to you performing well in school.
Hmm.
So anything that's a threat to that belief is going to cause you dissociation or anxiety or some kind of rift.
Yeah, my mom at that time, it was so funny. She was always against me cheating because some teachers would let you cheat on tests and you could take them at home to where they wouldn't know it. And so I would use all my
Oh,
resources. At this point, because I was proctored where I couldn't really cheat, she said, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you have a sticky note. I don't care if you have your tablet in there. I don't care if you cheat. I just want you to pass the class. So do whatever it takes for you to pass the test. She really didn't care.
yeah.
And
Well, also another because I was saying earlier about how school systems socially not set up realistically, but also just in general they're not set up realistically because I remember like we were never allowed to use calculators in school on tests, and now calculators are everywhere. They're on our phones, they're on our laptops. We don't even have like regular standalone calculators anymore, or just like
right.
a test in general. Very rarely do you have to recall knowledge on demand? You Google it, or you know what I mean? So just like the whole school system is so bizarre when you think about it because it's not real life at all.
Yeah, and they teach you all this stuff that you don't need to know about.
Oh, for sure. Like
It,
I would have rather learned in school how to like change a tire or do my taxes or stuff like that
hmm.
than all the useless stuff we learned.
And it's so weird that you said about technology because I remember because I wear an Apple Watch for for everything. I've worn one since I was in high school. I remember during a biology test, I had to take my watch off because our teacher was worried I could cheat on it. And I thought, I can't pull up Google on my watch. It doesn't
Yeah, I
have
know.
Safari. I was like, which then they were like, well, you can take a picture of it. I said, yeah, unless you could look
I was
right
just gonna
here at
say,
it.
I can barely see my phone screen half the time. Like,
I mean, so I remember there were times where I had to literally take my watch off. I thought this is so crazy. I
so you're
think
not in
teachers,
school anymore, right?
no, I
Okay.
graduated last December.
I think that's good for you because you're not the kind of person that, well, first of all, I don't think anyone is the kind of person that thrives in a school system. Some people are actually because they like can go through all the rules. Most people aren't. You're definitely not someone who thrives in a school system, which honestly, there's nothing wrong with that because you can still thrive in real life. So, and that'll be a lot less anxiety for you as well.
Oh, it's been such a huge redeemer. I don't understand people that can graduate, wait 15 years and go back for a master's. I don't
Same.
understand. I don't.
I once I graduated college, because I have a finance degree and a lot of people go back and get MBAs, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going back to school.
Oh, I mean, this is my advice for students. If you're wanting to go get a master's, do it immediately after you get your bachelor's. Don't wait a year, don't wait months. I mean, get your bachelor's, take the vacation, and then start your master's in that spring. I know that you probably don't want to, but I've enjoyed like this a semester and now this and not having to wake up and worry about any homework assignments that were due, having to get up for class. I mean, it's been such a huge change. I mean, I think for about a month, it took me a month to be like, get used to it. Because it was funny because I was the only one in my apartment that graduated. Both of my
Mm.
roommates were still in class. One was finishing up or was close to getting finished, and then one just started. He was a freshman, and it was so funny, like waking up and be like, I don't have to worry about classes now and have to worry about schoolwork or anything. And then here goes someone like my other roommates are just envy of me or jealous that I am done. And but yeah, I've never understood people that wait years and years and go back and get their masters. I've enjoyed it
Well,
too much.
sometimes there's pressure at work because I've had the pressure of like, because I didn't go back and get my MBA. And then when I'm looking for another job or transferring positions within a company, I'm competing with people who have MBAs. So there is that pressure. I don't think, I honestly don't think people who have been out of school for 10 to 15 years really enjoy it that much that they're going back. There's probably some kind of pressure in their profession to go back.
Yeah,
I could be
especially with,
wrong.
well, it's interesting you say that because our job environment now is really out of whack to where, um, which I don't know how it is in Hawaii, but over here on the mainland, it's where it's a battle. And some people say that their best chances of getting a job and really getting a really good job is they have a master's or a
See, that's
doctorate
what
in
I
something.
mean.
And so I think a lot of people nowadays go back because of that. Because now I think jobs don't really like to see a bachelor's. They would much rather want someone with a doctorate or a master's degree that has gone to school all these years. But I'm in that minority of you're gonna take my bachelor's and like it.
Also, here's another thing. And this is what I've learned because I was in corporate America for a very long time. The people who have the higher degrees, they're not necessarily the smartest or best for the job. It's just a piece of paper. So
Exactly.
also keep that in mind because again, I've been able to compete with people who have MBAs because I'm good at what I do, or even in corporate America, I was good at what I did and I was able to convey that and have results to speak to. So you can also go that route as well if you don't like school. Because
Yeah,
I didn't like
and
school and I didn't go back. So I was able to survive just fine.
it's similar to how colleges are when it comes to testing scores.
Yeah, it's the same concept.
Everywhere
It doesn't mean you're the
it's
smartest.
exactly. I don't know who invented ACT, but I think they need to be on an electric chair because
Well, I think a
that
lot of
is the
societal
stupidest
things
thing.
are so outdated, like ACTs and SATs. Like that's just an arbitrary measure that was decided at some point that I don't really think is valid for getting into a college. Um, the whole job interview process or application process, even, I feel like that's severely outdated. But both of these things are so ingrained in our society. I don't know how it's even possible to do a different way and get everyone on board with that. You know what I mean?
Right. You know, I really would like if ACT was kind of debunked a little bit because it's hard because colleges really rely on that now. Now, I think since the pandemic happened, I think they really toned the leniency on that down a lot. I don't think they really focus on ACT scores a lot now, which I could be wrong. Some colleges might
Yeah, I
still
don't
really rely
know.
on that. It just really depends on your location and what your school guidelines are. But yeah, when we were in middle school and high school, it was just kind of drained in our brains that you have to take an ACT and you have to have this high score to be able to get to it. Like big colleges like Harvard, if you want to go to these very much high up colleges, you have to get this certain number. And I did awful in ACT. I didn't have a great ACT score, but then it was a thing of, well, it's just for that test. That doesn't mean, like you said, even these people that have masters and doctorates sometimes are not even fit for the job. That there might be
Yeah.
someone that has a bachelor's or even an associate's degree. Hell,
Or
someone might could
sometimes people
have
who didn't
a
even go to
high school
college.
degree
Yeah.
are better fits for the job than people that went to school for 12 years. I mean, it really depends. And I don't really like it when people are having to fit into this certain category about you have to have this, you have to have that. Not everywhere needs it,
But what does
It,
the ACT prove? It proves that you're good at taking tests and you're good at having generalized knowledge. Or what is on the ACT? Because I know the SAT is math and English, or I don't even remember. What's the difference?
well, here's the thing. I never took SATs.
Oh, see, I took the SAT. I don't even remember what was on it. I know math was a component. What is on the ACT?
From what I remember, ACT it was science, math, English, and reading.
Oh, so that sounds more well-rounded. So basically, the ACT proves that you're good at taking tests and you're good at, answering questions on those four subjects. That doesn't mean you're going to do well in school or in a job or in society.
Exactly, because it would just ask generic math questions. It would ask generic science questions. I remember it was sectioned off and it was timed as well. And I think I'm not a huge person that's favorable of time. I really much like tests that are more complete at your
Well, because
own
it's not
rate.
realistic. Like, when in real life are you timed? Like, yeah, there may be emergency situations where it's urgent, but most situations you're not timed.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that they teach on there is not what you're gonna need. Like someone that's wanting to go into the medical field is not really gonna need to know maybe algebra per se. Now, I'm not a medical professional, could be wrong. I know some medics have to do math, but like science, biology, I would expect that. And for if you're wanting to be like a teacher, yeah, I would understand that because you need to learn basic English and reading comprehension questions. You need to learn basic science and math subjects. I mean, I see the ACT test as a way, I think it needs to be for students that are wanting to go into a particular field that would need those skills.
Yeah, like have a specialized test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Or they should go back to like way back in the day. You used to have to be an apprentice before you could be whatever your profession was. I think
mhm.
that's even better than college because then you're just actually learning the thing instead of all this extra stuff.
I remember I think one time we were saying, well, someone had asked us the question about what do you think high school should do differently for future? And I said, well, I think, and someone said they need to make it to where they have particular classes for particular careers
Yeah.
in high school because high school does all the main subjects of English, which my school focused more on reading and than English did. Like you could be in high school, we had English. All they really focused on was reading. My
What are you
English
reading
was
though?
trying to think. I remember in high school we read um I think we read Macbeth,
Oh,
read
yeah. And
Romeo and
like, what's the
Juliet.
point of that?
Exactly. And then we read oh it was some Beowulf, I think was the name of it.
Okay. Yeah. I think I had to read that too.
And then but then we had to read in another classes like A Walk to Remember, and then we read some like stories from textbooks in there. So but it on paper it's declined as it's specified as an English class, but they don't really focus on punctuation. They didn't really focus on grammar and all this stuff. They would focus more on reading and reading books, reading passages and all that. So it wasn't technically an English class, it was more of a reading class.
And I would argue English, as you're describing it, is really important because when I wrote my book and I sent it off to my editor, I was severely humbled because I apparently don't know much about grammar and punctuation because it was all marked up. Because I don't feel like we learn about that in school because we're reading Beowulf and all these books we don't even remember later.
Right. That's what my high school is. Now, again, everywhere's different. I'm just saying what my school system did. They
I think most of them are the same though.
But which in middle school they did kind of separate the English and reading apart. So where this class would only focus on comprehension, grammar, punctuation, those types of lessons. and reading would focus on vocabulary, they would focus on reading passages and all that. You can't really in high school have an English class and make it all be about reading. Because I'll honest with you too. I think my grammar and punctuation is not great because we didn't really we're taught that in high school, and also
I know.
punctuation and auto check and spell check on there and autocorrect and everything has really made it bad. And so, it's just kind of a thing in which there might be a high school out there that has separate reading in English. There might be, because we only had 4 periods, and there might be a high school that does like the standard
That's
seven
how
block
my high
period.
school was.
So I'm just saying from my school system, and there might be school systems in the that might be in the county as me that are different. It's just from what school I went to, everyone's different. Some high schools have 2 levels, and our high school was only on one level, one floor. So
Mm.
it's all different. But I kind of want the main message to be from this whole episode. I really would like people to know that don't really be focused in on one window or be in one lane. It's okay to be different, but I don't want people to feel pressured about, oh, they don't have this, they're not going to succeed in life, or they didn't do well on this thing, so that means that they're not smart enough, and oh, just because they have deal with this kind of mental health thing, that makes them such an odd person. I don't want people to. The theme I want people to know is that you're you you're unique in your own way, and don't let people try to change who you are, and don't let people try to think differently of yourself. But I have so much appreciated this chat. I was nervous that I was running out of questions, but then we got on like a very good topic. I was like, oh, she was talking about school, and she was like, oh, let me just dabble in that. So I appreciate you so much for being on the show today. I've enjoyed this conversation. But for people that want to follow you and know more about you, feel free to promote everything, and also promote your book as well, where they can find your book and this website and social media platforms and it's everything.
Yes, my Instagram is Angie Hawkins 808 and my website is runninginslippers.com. You can find out how to buy Running in Slippers, which is my book. It's available on paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. There's also information about my coaching program, which is called Shine from the Inside, and I help women discover their inner radiance and confidence because sometimes that can get stifled down with life. And I do offer a free call. So if you sign up for a free call, I am willing to help you figure it out, just like we helped you figure out where your school anxiety stemmed from. And if you need continued support, I do have a coaching program, but it's not for everybody. So if you still want more help and I can't help you, I know other coaches and I have other resources. So I can definitely, the whole goal is to help you so I can get you help, whatever that means for you. So feel free to set up a call and I would love to help.
Yes, and as always, I'll put all of her links. I'll put her website and social media in the description box below so that all of her links will be there in one location. Highly recommend if you need help with anything, if you just need some good advice about something, feel free to please set up the 30-minute call with her and a free call. I mean, it's a free call and just be able to get help from her. You'll be so grateful. I mean, just sitting here and talking about that school thing really kind of was like a preview of what she'll offer and everything. So if you need like an example, there was your example. But
Yeah. And that is
so
exactly what we would do, like walk through what it stems from and what you would need ongoing support with. And again, if I can't help, I know plenty of other coaches and other resources where you can get help.
absolutely. So I highly recommend people checking her out and recommend doing the call with her. If you need help or if you know someone that needs help, feel free to refer them to her, or refer them to the episode as well for them to listen. But for me, you can follow me on social media as well. Lethal Venom Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, as well as Noah's Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can follow Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from, on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, as well as Pandora. It's basically everywhere where podcasts are available. So make sure to follow so you'll get notified for new episodes. Just a huge thank you to Angie for joining me today. I really have enjoyed our time together. So, did you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share?
I do not. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, with that being said, I appreciate you all for listening, and thank you again, Angie, for joining us today. I'll catch you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.